So we have business past paper of 2020. We have the first question, question 2. Okay. It said, in the context of business, what do the following letter stands for? CEO, that's Chief Executive Officer, Chief Executive Officer, CEO. Then we have CRO, which is custom. Why is it open? That's Companies Registration Office, Companies Registration Office, Then we have LEO, that's the local enterprise, the local enterprise office, local enterprise, the local enterprise office. Then we have IDA, that's Industrial Development Authority, Industrial Development Authority. Then we have CCPC, which is Consumer Protection, Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, Consumer Protection Commission. I think that's there, right? Are you with me, please? Then we have question 5. Question 5 said, the General Data Protection Regulation came into effect across the EU on 25th of May 2018. In relation to EU legislation, explain the term regulation. Regulation is a binding legislative act of the EU. It must be applied to in all European Union. It is binding legislative acts, which is applicable all over European Union territory, European Union. Okay, that's question B. They said, identify other method of implementing EU legislation. Directive. You can use directive. Through directives. Question 6. For question 6, it said, explain the term indigenous firm. When we talk about indigenous firm, we're talking about firms that are established by an Irish resident or Irish citizen residing in Ireland. So we call it an indigenous firm because the business is being established by the indigenous or the citizen of a country, and the business is in that country. You get it? So yeah, it is a firm that is established by an Irish citizen operating in Ireland. I think that is clear. Is it clear, please? So indigenous firm, it is a firm. It is a firm that is established. By an Irish citizen, in Ireland. Do you get that? Do you get what indigenous firm is? We call it indigenous firm because this firm is established by an indigenous or a citizen of a country, and the business is still in operations in that country. That makes it an indigenous firm or indigenous business. Now, I said, outline one challenge facing indigenous firm. One of the challenges that could face an indigenous firm is increased competition from large businesses. There's globalization, and Ireland is part of the European Union, which simply means multinationals can also set in Ireland. But when multinationals set in Ireland, they might become a threat to indigenous firms or domestic firms. So that's one of the challenges of facing indigenous firms, because multinationals have the financial capability to exploit economies of scale. They have financial economies, they have technical economies of scale, they have managerial economies of scale, they have risk-bearing economies of scale, they have they have bulk purchasing economies of scale, and they have marketing economies of scale. All these form of economies of scale is a way in which firms, multinationals would reduce their average cost of production, which indigenous firms might not be able to do so, because indigenous firms are expected to be small firms. So they might not be able to compete with larger firms. And why are larger firms in Ireland? They are in Ireland because there's globalization. They are in Ireland because they are part of the European Union, which allows them to set up in Ireland or to have their own business in Ireland. So indigenous firms in Ireland might face, increasing competition from multinationals setting up in Ireland. I think indigenous firm is clear. So that's indigenous firm. These are businesses that are owned by the citizens of a country, and they are established in that country. So we could say indigenous firm in Libya is a business that is owned by a Libyan, and the business is operating in Libya. But the problem a business in Libya can face is increasing competition from multinationals. So if multinationals are allowed to come to Libya to establish, they might become a threat to the indigenous firms in Libya. I think that is clear. So that's about indigenous firms. I think it's clear. So the advantage is now increased competition from MNCs. Increased competition from MNCs. Okay, from MNCs, as they have the ability to exploit economies of scale, economies of scale, economies economies of scale. I think that's clear. So move on. Question 7. Here they said, with write true or false after each of the following statements. Electronic data interchange, EDI, involves the business exchanging its customer data with other business. No, EDI is it is not about you exchanging information. When you exchange information, it's about your customer database. So it is not, EDI does not involve in exchanging customers database. So it's not it's not. So it is false. Just-in-time production allows manufacturing businesses to reduce cost by keeping stock of raw materials to a minimum. Yes, but just-in-time, it simply means you only order for raw materials when you need to produce. So it reduces cost of keeping raw materials. So it's true. Lead time is the amount of time it takes a supplier to fulfill an order. Yes, true. Economies of scale increase cost when a business buys large quantities of raw materials in bulk at a discount. No, it reduces cost. So it is false. Are you with me, please? Optimum stock level is the ideal amount of stock a business should have at any given point in time. Yes, that's the optimum. True. So that's about that. Then go to question 7. Now we have section 2. Section 2. Where is it? Okay. Yes. Okay, for section 2, it's a case study. They said, um, they said James Kennedy established Midway Devices in 2014, having previously worked as a product engineer for US giant Medline. James left to pursue his ambition of running his own business. He saw an opportunity to develop implants for the hip replacement sector. James was aware how difficult it would be to compete with major global companies. He believed in his ability and his product. James convinced several other investors to join him. Midway Devices currently employs 320 people in its plant. In 2019, James appointed Maria Gill as managing director. The workforce is divided into a product organizational structure based on the various types of implants produced. All products teams have managers appointed to lead each unit. The management teams feel frustrated with Maria's approach to decision making because Maria takes full control of all decisions. She regularly gives instruction to management without taking any valuable feedback. Our main method of staff communication is via the email. Staff find it difficult to approach Maria about issues. As a result, some employees have left to pursue opportunities in other medical companies. On noticing this, Maria has decided to ensure that more staff social activities are arranged together with extra funding for the staff social club. James saw the potential to move into the Asian market and research opportunities to open a new manufacturing plant in Singapore. The Human Resources Department of Midway Devices look at the need for staff for the new plant. While many of the staff from the Irish plant will be relocated, the HR department predicts they will need to recruit 220 staff within the next 6 months. The department advertised on recruitment websites in a wide range of countries to attract the best candidate for every position. The job advertisement highlighted the excellent salaries offered by the business. Interviews were conducted via Skype to facilitate international applicants. The HR team ensured all selection panels had a gender balance. The quarterly staff appraisal at the Irish plant have been postponed. This is largely due to the HR department planning an induction program for new staff and organizing training for existing staff who will be relocating to Singapore. The HR team have also been asked by Maria for suggestions on how to retain their top talents. Now, the first question says, discuss James Kennedy entrepreneurial characteristics or skills with reference to the text. The first one is risk taker. Being an entrepreneur means taking both personal risk, which is he quits his job to set up his business, and financial risk, putting your own money. So there is financial risk and personal risk. We call it personal risk because we call it when as a risk taker, as an entrepreneur, you are a risk taker. Why are you a risk taker? You're a risk taker because you are taking both financial risk and personal risk. What is the personal risk you are taking? The personal risk that you might be taking is you quitting your paid job to want to start your own business. That is personal risk. Oh, I'm leaving my job, I'm quitting my job to start my own business. That is a personal risk. And the financial risk here is you have to put your own money into the business. Nobody is going to give you money. Nobody's going to loan you because you will be considered as high risk by financiers or investors or banks. They won't be able to give you loans. So you have to put your own money into the business. And these are risks because the business might not succeed. So that is why it is called a risk. So you are a risk taker if you take both personal risk and financial risk when it comes to you setting up your own business. I think it's clear. Is it clear, please? So the other characteristic is innovative. You coming up with new ideas. So these are what entrepreneurs will do. Do you get the second one here? So the second one is innovative. Entrepreneurs have the ability to come up with new ideas or ways of doing things. So he saw an opportunity to develop implants for the hip replacement sector. That's an opportunity. And the third one is realistic. Entrepreneurs see things as they are, not the way, since things are the way they are, not the way they would like it to be. You have to be realistic. And being realistic simply means you don't just see things like, oh, it should be like this. No, you see it the way it should be, not the way you would want it to be. So these are the characteristics of entrepreneur. Do you get that? Do you get it or not, please? Do you understand entrepreneurial? Why do we call them entrepreneur? We call them entrepreneur because they take risk to set up their own business. That is why they are entrepreneurs. And when we talk about the characteristics of entrepreneur, one, they are risk taker. Like I said earlier, they could take both financial and personal risk. Personal risk simply means you might quit your job because you are taking up you want to start up your own business. That is personal. Financial risk might mean that you have to put your own money into the business. Okay. And the next one is being realistic. As entrepreneurs, you have to see things the way they are, not the way you would love them to be. So you have to face the reality, and that's being realistic. So here, entrepreneurs see things as they are, not the way they would like it to be. They set realistic targets. James was aware how difficult it would be to compete with major global companies. So you don't just feel like you don't assume or you don't pretend that things are fine when things are not fine. So you have to see things the way they are, not the way you would want them to be. So these are reasons why you are an entrepreneur. So these are the skills or characteristics you must possess. You must be innovative, you have to be a risk taker, and you have to be realistic. So these three will be enough. I think it's clear. So the next one. Okay, there's still one more I wrote. Decision making. I said the ability to make quick and effective decisions is essential for enterprising people. As an entrepreneur, you need to make quick decisions. And even when you are not comfortable, you just have to make that decision. That's decision making. I think decision making is clear. So we go to section 3. Okay. So for section 3, they said, for question 1, they said, in November 2019, Aldi celebrated 20 years of operating in Ireland. Today, the supermarket store has over 200 Irish businesses making products for it. The company's website states, we are committed to sourcing the very best produce from the best local suppliers. Illustrate how a cooperative relationship between Aldi and its suppliers could arise. We're talking about cooperative relationship. It's a relationship that exists between both parties, which is a win-win situation. So we are both pursuing the same goal. We both want to win. That is cooperative relationship. Look at what I wrote here. Cooperative relationship exists where both parties work together to achieve a common goal. It's a win-win relationship or situation. So a cooperative relationship will arise when the supplier provides good quality raw materials to Aldi, who in turn pays promptly to the supplier. So there is a win-win situation here. Your supplier supplies you on time, and you've also paid on time. That is a win-win situation. Then we have competitive relationship. When it comes to competitive relationship, it occurs when the situation becomes mutual exclusive. So it's a win-lose situation. So competitive relationship between Aldi and rival supermarkets refers to both business pursuing different goals. It is a win-lose situation. So when it comes to competitive relationship, it's a win-lose situation. For you to win, I have to lose. For me to win, you have to lose. That is what we call competitive relationship. And this exists between competitors. They can compete with price, they can compete with quality, they can compete with customers. So this is competitive relationship. Yeah, for example, how they compete with other supermarkets such as Tesco via quality of their goods, the price of goods, customer services. So these are competitive relationships. So the difference between competitive relationship and cooperative relationship is that in cooperative relationship, it's a win-win situation. You are both pursuing the same goal. But for competitive relationship, it's a win-lose situation. For you to win, I have to lose. For me to win, you have to lose. That is competitive. Is it clear? Is it clear, please? Now, I heard you said, outline how consumer benefits from the existence of competition between rivals, number 1. You heard you said, outline how customers benefit from the existence of competition between rivals. When there's competition between rivals, 1, it brings about reduced price because there are large numbers of competitors. All of you want to sell to the same customers because there's no customer in heaven. All the customers are here. So for you to sell, to attract more customers, you might have to reduce your price, reduced price. So consumers may benefit from Howdy and its competitors as they may lower price to attract more customers. 2, improved quality of goods and services. Customers want a better experience and you have to meet their expectation. And what can you do to meet customers' expectation? You have to provide them with quality products or produce quality products or provide them with quality service. So customers might be able to enjoy quality service or quality products because there are a lot of competitors. So these are the benefits of having competition in the market for customers. I think that is clear. Now, B, they said, explain the consumer's legal rights under the terms of the Sale of Goods and Supply of Service Act of 1980 with reference to any of these three. So I wrote the 4. Services. When a consumer buy a service, the service provider must have the necessary skills, qualification needed to carry out the service. That's about service. Guarantees. These are additional protection given to consumers, and they cannot limit the consumer rights under consumer law. So it's guarantee means whatever you buy now, you must provide us with, you must protect us. You must let us understand that whatever happens to this product, in as much as it's still within the time frame, you can return it to protect our right. The third one, sign limiting consumer rights. Signs such as credit notes only, no cash refunds are prohibited under the Sales of Goods and Supply Act of 1980, as they make customers feel they don't have any legal rights. So whatever signs that will make customers to feel like they cannot have a say, it's illegal. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. And the last one, merchantable quality. The consumer is entitled to goods that are of reasonable quality. You must provide consumers with goods with quality. That's clear, right? Any question about that? So we have question 2. They said, discuss 3 characteristics of an environmentally responsible business. If you are an environmentally responsible business, it simply means you are socially responsible. What are those things that you should do? Number 1, you minimize waste. The business could adopt the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and recover. Are you with me, please? Mm-hmm. So for a business to be socially responsible, the first thing one of the things you could do is to minimize waste. And when you are minimizing waste, you can use the 4 R's. You reuse, you reduce, you recycle, and recover. Reuse, recycle, recover, reduce. These are the 4 R's for minimizing waste. 2, pollution prevention. You can use processes or practices that reduce pollution. That makes you environmentally responsible. The third one is code of ethics. It is a formal written statement setting out the modes of behavior expected from a business and is dealing with stakeholders. You can also have a code of ethics, which allows your stakeholders to know what to do at any point in time. The moral way of doing things, they have to understand that. So these are things a business must do to ensure that it's socially responsible. Is it clear? Now, the positive impact. They said, outline 1 impact on the business of meeting its environmental responsibilities. For a business to meet its environmental responsibilities, one of the advantages is that it brings about good public image. Your reputation in the market becomes better. Oh, this business is socially responsible. It takes care of the society. It pays workers fairly. It doesn't use child labor. If you are doing this, they will speak well of you. That is what the point is. So good public image, socially responsible firms enjoy a much greater public image than those who do not adhere to their ethical, social, and environmental responsibilities. And the negative thing is that it increases your production cost. For you to be socially responsible, you have to pay your workers fairly. You have to use renewable resources, and these things are expensive. So the negative impact of being socially responsible is that it increases your cost. Is it clear? Is it clear, please? Any question about that? That's, I think, okay, we have the 4, okay. We have question 4C. Are you there? So we have question 4. See, they said, explain using an example the term entrepreneurship. When we talk about an entrepreneur is that employee that comes up with new business idea for the business. So you are an employee, but you can also come up with innovative ideas that would help the business to have a competitive advantage over its competitors. That makes you an intrapreneur. So, example here, a worker at Microsoft came up with the idea of Xbox. It's a worker that comes up with that idea. So that worker is an intrapreneur. So what are the benefits of entrepreneurship for a business? Number one, increased sales. Entrepreneurship results in new product or service being developed. This might allow the business to keep its existing customers and attract potential customers. Because you have accepted entrepreneurship in your business, so your employees might come up with new ideas. And when they come up with new ideas, the new idea might bring about or might birth a new product or new service. And if new product is being established or new service is being rendered, your existing customers, they will stay. And you might as well attract potential customers. And when you're able to attract potential customers, it increases your revenue and sales. That's the first benefit of entrepreneurship. The second one is reduced cost. Various ideas introduced result in greater productivity in the business. For example, an employee at Cadbury came up with a packaging improvement that reduced cost. When you allow your employees to become intrapreneurs, they might come up with ideas that would reduce your cost of production. And if your cost of production is reducing, it increases your profitability. So that's an advantage of entrepreneurship. Is it clear? Any question about that? So that's about entrepreneurship. And that ends 2020 past paper. Is it clear, please? So go to 2021. Just gonna switch. 2021 past paper. 2021 past paper. Okay, we have 2021 past paper now. Let me pause first. So we have 2021 past paper. Are you here, please? Okay. Okay, we have 2021 past paper, question 1 and question 2 here. So for question 1, they said, column 1 is a list of business terms. Column 2 is a list of possible explanation of these terms. So we have terms and we have the explanation. Merger, they said merger. What is merger? Merger simply means two or more businesses join together to create a new legal entity. So merger simply means what? Two or more businesses join together to create a new legal entity. So merger number 1 is D. I think it's clear. Number 1 is D. Number 2, economies of scale. When you talk about economies of scale, the cost of producing each unit decreases due to an increase in the production or bulk buying of raw materials. So there's economies of scale if your expansion brings about reduced average cost of production. So for 2, it is F. For 3, acquisition. When you talk about acquisition, it simply means a business is buying over another business, but at least you have to buy 50% of the other business. That makes it acquisition. So for acquisition, question 3, it's A. The next one is diversification. When you diversify, it means you are spreading your risk. So let's look at the options here. They said, a business spread risk by not being dependent on one market or one product. That is diversification. So question 4, D. Then the 5th one, strategic alliance. When we talk about strategic alliance, it simply means a business, 2 or more businesses are coming together to work together on something, on a new project. And they still remain their separate legal entity. My business is still remain my business, your business still remains your business, but we're coming together to work together on a project. It's more like a joint venture. Your business, you still have your business, I have my business, but we're coming together for a project. That is what we call strategic alliance or joint venture. Is it clear? So 5, it's B. Any questions about that? So the next one. Take care. The next one. So for question 2, they said, in the context of business, what do the following letter stands for? WTO, that's World Trade Organization. World Trade Organization. World. Are you okay? WTO means World Trade Organization. World Trade Organization, Trade Organization. That's WTO. Then we have CAM, which is computer-aided CAM, computer-aided manufacturing. Aided manufacturing. We have EDI, which is electronic data interchange. Electronic data interchange. That is CAD, CAD interchange. We have CAD, which is computer-aided design. Computer-aided design. Computer-aided design. That's CAD. And we have JIT, which is just in time. Just in time. Just in time. So these are the words. We have WTO, which is World Trade Organization. We have CAM, which is computer-aided manufacturing. We have EDI, which is electronic data interchange. We have CAD, which is computer-aided design. And we have JIT, which is just in time. Go on. We have question 3. Are you with me, please? For question 2, they said, Kamili Thai is a healthy, sustainable, fast casual restaurant franchise. Explain the term franchise. A franchise occurs when a franchise is an agreement between the franchisor, who is the owner of the business, and the franchisee, who is another business that which allows the franchisee to use the brand name of the franchisor for its business. So franchise is an agreement between the franchisor and the franchisee, which allows the franchisee to use the franchisor's brand name or product or idea for its own business. That's franchising. I think it's clear. Then they said, outline one benefit of a franchise as a startup option. Less risk. Because when you use a franchise, when you are using a franchise, it simply means you are using a name that is already established. You are using a successful brand. So that means it reduces the risk of failure. So yeah, I would less risk. As the business the franchise is already a successful business with large customer base. This reduces the risk of failure. When you use franchise, the risk of failure is less because you are using a brand, a successful brand name. So it already has its customer base. So you might as well succeed. I think that is clear. That's question 3, right? For 2021. So we've done question 1, question 2, question 3, 2021. Franchise is an agreement between the franchisor and the franchisee to use the brand name of the franchisor. So now the advantage is less risk as the business is using the brand name that is already the brand name That is already a success. That is already a success. Okay, that point is clear. So that's question 3. Do you have any other question more here? So question 5. Are you there? Okay. For question 5, the other side. So for question 5, they said, this state agency helps local entrepreneurs establish and grow a business. That's LEO, Local Enterprise Office. Local Enterprise Office, LEO. That's LEO. LEO. That's Local Enterprise Office. They said this state agency helps existing indigenous firms to expand. That is Enterprise Island. Enterprise Island. EI. This state agency supports the tourism industry and work to promote Island as a tourism destination. That is a tourism island. Tourism Island. Tourism Island. They said this state agency aims to attract foreign direct investment into Ireland. That's Industrial Development Authority, IDA. Industrial Development Authority. Industrial Development Authority. IDA. That's clear. Class question 5. We have question 9. So here we have question 9. They said, distinguish between enterprise and management. We're talking about enterprise. Enterprise is an attempt to start something. New. That's an enterprise. Come up with an idea. You have a reason to want to do something. That's why we say enterprise is the office of an entrepreneur. The idea of, the attempt to start something new, that is enterprise. Then for management refers to the ability to achieve results by working with people. Management is about planning, organizing, coordinating. These are managing. This is what management is about. So enterprise is an attempt for you to start something new. And when we talk about management, it means you want to achieve a result through working with people. I think it's clear. So that's from question 1 to question 9 there. Then we have question 11. Okay, here they said, many leading global pharmaceutical companies are located in Ireland. No, this is not going to count. No. No. Okay. Here we have section 2. Okay, how to create one past paper. Okay, we have to. So we have question 2 now. Are you there? Are you there? Section B. So we have the case study. The case study is here for you to read. I'm not going to read it again. Now, question 2. Section 3. Okay. Okay. Are you there? Now, question 2, they said, illustrate the impact of the following economic variables on Irish business. Number 1, interest rate. When I talk about interest rate, it's the price of money, which means the cost of borrowing or the benefit of saving. That is interest rate. The cost of borrowing, or the benefit of saving, that's interest rate. And the rise in interest rate will increase the cost of borrowing for Irish firms, which will in turn reduce economic activity in Ireland. So for interest rates, first you have to define what interest rate is. Like I just said now, is the cost of borrowing. And if the cost of borrowing is increasing in Ireland, it means businesses in Ireland would not be able to borrow for investment, and that reduces investment in Ireland. 2, inflation rate. Inflation is a rise in the average level of price from one period to the next. So if the inflation rate is low, price becomes cheaper. As a result, consumers may spend more, which increases the revenue for firms and revenue for government. If the inflation rate is low, it simply means people would have more money to buy. And because they have more money to buy, purchasing power would increase for consumers. Government will also make more revenue. Employment. Employment refers to the percentage of the labor force who are engaged in a paid job. People that have jobs, that is people that are employed. So if the employment rate is increasing in Ireland, it simply means people have more disposable income, and output will be able to increase in Ireland, and that brings about economic growth. I think it's clear. Is it clear, Chris? We have question 5. Question 5C. Yeah, they said, they said, the case study is there. They said, define the term delegation. When you talk about delegation, it simply means you're allowing people to act on your behalf. You are the manager. Then you just call B or A to come and act on your behalf, should represent you at a certain period of time. That is delegation. So delegation implies to the act of allowing a subordinate to act on the manager's behalf. So what are the benefits of delegation? Number 1, let me do that. So like I said about delegation implies to the act of allowing a subordinate to act on your behalf as a manager. So delegation simply means you are acting on behalf of your manager as a subordinate. That is delegation. So what are the advantages or benefits of delegation? Number 1, increased efficiency. This allows tasks to be completed to a higher standard due to the level of personal accountability provided by delegation. But if I'm allowing you to, if I'm delegating authority towards you, like if I'm telling you to act on my behalf, so whatever happens, if you are going to be accountable for it, that means you're going to carry out that job with high efficiency. Do you understand the point here? Because there's delegation and there's accountability. So it simply means whatever you do, whatever your actions are, you bear the consequence. That is accountability. You'll be called upon for it. You'll be in charge. You'll be responsible. So with that, there will be efficiency, because you know that you wouldn't want to make a mistake, because when you make a mistake, it's going to be on you. 2, staff development. Like I said about delegation implies to the act of allowing. 2, staff development. Delegation allows workers to be highly skilled, which in turn brings about flexibility to them. So you know, if you are hard at work, you can do more, you have skills, your manager would always want to call you to come and help, to come and represent him. So that allows you to have more skills and flexibility. So that's another advantage of delegation. Is it clear? So that ends 2022 past paper. Is it no 2021 past paper? Clear, right? The next one, please. 2022, not much. So we have 2022 past paper. We have 2022 past paper. Sorry. We have 2022 paper 1. Question 1A. Let's see. It's 2022. Question 2. Okay, yeah, question 2. Are you with me, please? They said, in the context of business, what do the following letters stand for? WTO, that was World Trade Organization. World Trade Organization. EMU, that is Economic and Monetary Union. Economic and Monetary Union. Monetary Union. The IDA, Industrial Development Authority. Industrial Development Authority. Then we have FDI, which is Foreign Direct Investment. Then we have CAP, which is Common Agricultural Policy here. Common Agriculture Policy. Agriculture Policy. We move on. We have question 2C, question 5. 2C, 5. Yeah, question 2C. You don't have it here. It's on the screen anyway. So I'm going to now change it again. 2C. So question 2C, they said, discuss the social responsibility of Mike Pizzas to its stakeholders. But that's not where we're going. They said, analyze one implication of the business meeting is social responsibility. They said, analyze the implication. So for social responsibility, number 1 is high production cost. Those that produce sustainable products could face higher costs due to employees are paid fairly and the fair price of materials are paid. Because a business is socially responsible, it simply means you have to do things the right way. And doing things the right way are quite expensive. And that brings about increasing cost of production. 2, you have to train your workers, because your workers, you have to continuously remind your workers about their social responsibility. And how can you always remind them? You can only remind them through training. So regular staff training must be provided to ensure that employees understand their social responsibilities in the business. This training reduces productivity as employees are not working during this time. So especially when it is off the job training, employees are not going to be available. So because they are in training, so they won't be at workplace, and that reduces productivity. That's C. Question 5. Yeah, for question 5, they said, we have only C here. They said, explain the term entrepreneurship. An entrepreneur is an employee with a business who engages in entrepreneurial activities. Because you are an intrapreneur because you come up with a business idea that is helpful for the business, that gives the business opportunity to make more profit, opportunity to have competitive advantage over competitors. So what are the methods a business could use to encourage entrepreneurship? Number 1, financial rewards for efforts and creativity. You reward your employees financially. So for anyone that comes up with a business idea, reward them. Maybe you increase their pay, incentives, or benefits. That could encourage them to do more. 2, provide resources. You don't just encourage them. You give them time and capital. Provide them with more finance and time for them to carry out, their errors or their, to carry out their function, their roles, to carry out their risk, because it is a risk. So they might fail, but give them more time to explore. And the last one is arrange staff into teams. Like team, make a team, teamwork. So because when there's a team, it simply means it allows them to brainstorm. They come up with different creative ideas, and that could bring about entrepreneurship. Exactly. This one's not, let me get it. So that ends 2022 past paper, just 5C, one figure 2. Okay. So that ends 2022 past paper. Then we have 2023, right? Yeah. We have 2023 past paper. So we have 2023 past paper. Okay. We have 2023 past paper. So we now I said this section, okay. First question 1. Okay. They said sport retail chain Intersport Elvez is an Irish indigenous firm. Explain the term indigenous firm. Indigenous firm is a business which is owned by the residents of a country that it operates in. So we've been talking about that before. It's an indigenous firm because this firm or this business is owned by the indigene of that country, and the business is operating in that country. I think indigenous firm is clear. It is a business owned by the residents of the country, by the residents of a country where the business is, where the business is in operation, where the business operates, where the business operates, where the business, where the business, where the business, where the business operates. Now, I said, outline 2 challenges that may be experienced by an indigenous business. Number 1, increased cost. We talked about that before. Increased costs. There I go. A rise in energy cost, like a rise in energy cost, a rise in energy cost has led to an increase in the cost of production, an increase in the cost of production, an increase in the cost of production, in the costs of production, lowering profits, lowering profits. 2, shortage of labor. Cut it. Let's be in silent, please. Shortage of labor. Shortage of labor. It is difficult for firms. It is difficult for firms to employ skilled workers, to employ skilled workers. So that's another problem. We have the third one. What's it going like this? The third one, we have TQM, Total Quality Management, Total Quality Management. We have ISME, Irish Small and Medium Enterprise, Irish Small and Medium Enterprise, Medium Enterprise. We have JIT, just in time, just in time. We have EDI, which is electronic data interchange, electronic data interchange. Then we have ROI, return on investment. Return on investment. Move on. Question 4. No, question 4 is no exhibit. Question 10 is. So for question 10, they said outline 2 characteristics or skills associated with entrepreneurs. Number 1, risk taking. Risk taking. They take both financial and personal risk. Personal risk. So, decision making. They should be able to make the right decision, even under pressure, even under pressure. Okay. Move on. We have question 1. Question 1, let's see. Okay, yes, this. Yeah, that's paper 2. Section 3. What section is it? Okay. This is part 1, section 3. We said, describe one example of cooperative relationship and one example of competitive relationship that could arise between the following stakeholders, employer and employee. What is cooperative relationship? Cooperative relationship exists when both parties work towards a common goal. It's a win-win situation. That is cooperative relationship. An employer and an employee would have a cooperative relationship if the employer trained the employee and the employee is able to increase productivity. That's a win-win situation. Investor and the manager of a business, there's cooperative relationship which may exist if both are working or trying to achieve or to make the business to grow. So what can they do to make the business grow? The investor provides capital for the business and the manager makes the right decision to increase profitability. That is a win-win situation. These are all cooperative situations or cooperative relationship between employer and employee. Employer provides training, employee becomes more productive. For cooperative relationship between employer and employee, there's cooperative relationship between both employers and employees are working towards achieving a common goal. That is cooperative relationship. The one that could exist between employer and employees, the employer providing training for the employee and the employee becomes more productive. It's a win-win situation. Between investors and the investor and the manager wants to grow the business. So the investor might provide capital or finance or fund for the business, and the manager takes or makes the right decision to increase profitability. That is a win-win situation. Both situations about employees and employer, investors and managers in this scene is what we call cooperative relationship, because it's a win-win situation. Then we have competitive relationship, which exists between both parties that are working towards a mutual exclusive goal. Your win is my loss. My loss is your win. That's a win-lose situation. So in that situation, the employer and the employee, they might have to be competitive when it comes to pay. So the employer would not want to increase the employee's salary. The employee wants a salary to be increased. So if the employer is increasing the salary of the employer is losing money. It's a win-lose situation. And if the employer is not increasing the salary of the employee is losing. So if you lose, I win. If I win, you lose. That is a competitive relationship. And for the investors and the manager, the investor and the manager may have a competitive relationship when it comes to dividends. Investors want return on their investment. Managers want more profit. So sharing the profit might become a competitive relationship. So that is what competitive and cooperative relationship is about. I think it's clear. Then we move on. I think that's all. Willie? Yeah, question 1A. That's it. So that ends all the past papers. So we did 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023 on the same video.